My name is Brandy Arellano. I'm here. I work at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and I'm really excited because I'm here to introduce today's real speaker. But before I get to that, I wanted to tell you a little bit about who I am, why I'm here, why I'm introducing, and what you're going to hear a little bit about today. So, as I said, my name is Brandy. I work at the university at the Center for Global Initiatives. In my role at the university, I manage a number of programs, and the programs are really meant to help open access to global opportunities for students who haven't traditionally had global experiences. And so the way we do this is we really target students such as transfer students, minority students, low-income students. Students have had barriers that have prevented them from having global experiences, and offer them programs and resources and opportunities to fulfill some of these experiences, knowing that these experiences can help them later on once they've graduated and in their futures. So my role is a program manager, and in that role, I manage a number of programs, including one that you will learn a lot more about today called Global Takeoff Puerto Rico. GTO stands for Global Takeoff. Today, I'm actually introducing one of our participants, Krissa Walters, who many of you, I think, know already. But Krissa was selected for our program last year. She participated in the program in May of 2018, and we took a group of 11 UNC students to Puerto Rico. Now, these 11 students that were selected are selected for a number of reasons. One, they are students who have had limited to no travel experience. So for many of them, it's the first time outside of the continental US, but also many of them, it's the first time on a plane outside of North Carolina. They also all have financial needs, so this is a fully funded experience, so it's free for students. When we select students, we're trying to build a group of students that come from different backgrounds and different disciplines to try to enhance the education that occurs on the ground. Every year when we run this program, we have a theme associated to the program. And Krissa, the theme was identity. And so exploring identity, not only for the people we are meeting in Puerto Rico and the communities that we interacted with, but also for the students that were all participating in the opportunity. And I think that was one of the strengths that we saw in Krissa when we had read her application, being that she was an older student that had overcome so many challenges and persevered, yet was still in school finalizing her goals in exercise and sports science and a fitness professional track, was an opportunity for students at UNC to learn from each other and to learn from her. So with that, I would like to introduce Krissa, and please give her a warm welcome and applause to come share a little bit more. Thank you.
So happy to see all of you out. Thank you for coming out in all this rain. Yuck. I have two little disclaimers. First of all, I took in between 900 and 1,000 pictures while I was in Puerto Rico. You already know I'm a photographer, so I had a blast with my camera. My phone stayed dead. And the second disclaimer is I am not fluent in Spanish, unfortunately, so some of the words I cannot pronounce still. My third level Spanish instructor said, "No, honey, we can't continue." So I took her advice, even though I always wanted to be fluent. So bear with me on the words. I gave you a copy of a map of Puerto Rico and a small, short list, very brief summary of what we did. We went to basically 12 different spots. So I wanted you to see how we went all over Puerto Rico, saw a little bit of everything. Thanks to these three wonderful people. This is Roberto and Brandy, whom you just met, and Emily. They were our fearless leaders on the trip. Here's your map of Puerto Rico. We're going to go all over the place today, and we had loads of fun. If you look up toward the right, you'll see an airplane. That's where we flew in at. This is our team, a couple of my favorite pictures of us together. I'll talk about those two locations in a little bit, but I just wanted you to see all of us together. We had a variety in our group, and we had so much fun. So yes, our topic was identity. Our theme of the whole entire week was identity. We talked about what actually defines you. Before we went, we had several sessions where we met and talked about that. This is my way of identifying myself. There's a few, you know me pretty well, so you could probably already tell me what all those are. So here's day one. We flew out. I actually have a ticket going to Puerto Rico. I was one happy grandma. I have flown before, so I was thankful for that. I was not afraid of the plane. I actually look forward to it. I enjoy flying. So the sights we saw in that plane were not what I was used to. It was much more beautiful. And then when we got to Puerto Rico, I saw some things that I have never seen as well. Pretty quick into the trip. This is still the first day. We got there in the afternoon. This is looking out the bus window. I was sitting near the front. I immediately began to think, well, I'm not sure about this. I was a little bit scared. So we finally made it. We are staying in the Dreams Hotel. This was in San Juan. Just to clarify, most of you probably know this, but Old San Juan is the area where the cruise ship comes in. That's where everything's pretty and lush and pleasant. This is San Juan. This is not where the cruise ship comes in. On that first day, we walked over to the University of Puerto Rico, one of the locations that we visited while we were there. And we met some of the students. They were very talented. We saw lots of beautiful buildings. Doesn't look like UNC, but it was absolutely beautiful. There's my first taste of Puerto Rico. We had lots of food, and I was surprised. I thought it would be a huge variety of food. It was primarily chicken, rice, and beans. Every once in a while we got pork, and we thought we were something. And then when we went closer to the beach and we'd get crab, I thought, wow, this is going to be great, except it had bits of crab showing, and I didn't like that. This is my first lodging in the Dreams Hotel. The girls that I stayed with were super nice to the old one here and let me sleep on the bed by myself. We did have air condition and plenty of mosquitoes. Here we are. This is breakfast the next morning, Panchi's, and it was absolutely my favorite place to eat there of all. Loved the breakfast. I remember she making me order myself, and I could only say ocho for the number ocho. I wanted that special. But there's my breakfast, and it was delicious. But I was worried when I got my coffee because it was in a little tiny Dixie cup, and I thought, I'm going to need about 12 of those. But it was so robust and bold and delicious. That one cup I savored for my whole entire breakfast. I got to take my very first train ride in Puerto Rico. There I am, sitting on the train. We went over to an area and rode their bikes for 2 hours, all around 8 different parts of the communities, and talked to them about identity and how, obviously, let me just remind you too, I've talked to many of you about this, we were about 8 months out after the last hurricane hit. So when we began to talk to them about identity, obviously a huge amount of the conversation went back to the hurricane and how the hurricanes changed their identity, molded their identity, helped them to identify themselves. So this is the beginning of our bike ride, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Being an exercise and fitness major, it wasn't too bad. I had to help some of our cohorts out, but we made it and we had fun. I would love to be able to show you. This was probably one of the highlights of the trip for me personally, and the pictures that I got on our bike ride were just amazing and heart-wrenching at the same time. I'm going to show you just a few, though, because I have too many slides to show you. There was still quite a bit of trash and debris laying around, and this, again, is 8 months out. We talked to folks who still knew folks who didn't have power. We worry about 2 days of power here. These folks were 8 months out. We were told before we went, we're not sure. We think everything's okay as far as power outages, and we should be fine. And we were. Thankfully, we were taken care of, and we didn't have to suffer that. But we did talk to folks who still knew family and friends who were without power. Here we are stopping at a little store. And along that trip, we met folks in the community, such as this lady who literally grew fruit in her yard and made ices every day and sold them in little plastic cups for 50 cents each. I bought 2. They were delicious. To see the fruit growing in the yards, and they worked together. What we found out is they were working together. If she was trying to make a icy of a flavor that she didn't have the fruit for, she bought it from a neighbor, and vice versa. They helped each other out. So they are overcoming their obstacles. This was G8. This is the building where we went to learn about the program. Here we are on another stop, just a nice group picture I wanted to share. We had lunch. We went back to the campus, University of Puerto Rico, and went back to the campus, and we had lunch. Students there also set up tents and whatever to cook food. This was a particular one that was feeding people who wouldn't have anything to eat. We were able to help them. They would take donations of food instead of money if you needed to do that, or you could work for your food. It was very heartwarming to see them working together on campus too. Students missed months of school. They were way behind in their classes, and were going to have to go, not have their summer break and all that. They weren't going to graduate on time, so they were sticking with it. We went over to basically like the mall and looked around there. We saw lots of fresh vegetables and fruits on display. I met this gentleman. Part of our trip was obviously to interact as much as we could with the locals. So I introduced myself to this man, and he said, "Will you please take a picture of me and my store?" I said, "I will be happy to do that, and I will show it every chance I get." So these are some items that he makes by hand and sells them. It's basically like what we have is sort of like an indoor flea market area. He was very happy to have his picture made. We went over to the largest satellite on the planet and enjoyed this. This was kind of fun because we know about movies being made here. Any of you familiar with this? Arecibo Observatory. So this is the largest satellite, and we learned all kinds of neat things about how they can send signals out into space and find out about objects that are moving around in space, the size, and when they're going to hit, where they're going to hit, and all that. They can do a lot more than our satellites can. We went over and had lunch at this place called Momo Food Lovers. So this young girl graduated from college and at first couldn't decide what she wanted to do. And then she decided, well, my mom cooks really well. I cook really well. So they teamed up at their home, built this covered shelter with picnic tables, and they cooked food. It's just like going to grandma's house. It was so good. It was so good. And it was so beautiful. They had the steps up the side. You could walk up top and look over, basically like a lookout. It was very nice visiting with them, and it literally was like being with family. They were super sweet, working hard to overcome obstacles. This was an opportunity. We went back over and visited some of the, basically this is left back from whenever they had ceremonial games way back, the natives had, and these were still left there. There's where they were able to excavate this, and this is not rebuilt. This is literally the original structures. We went back over to a different University of Puerto Rico. This is a different location, and we met with the students there. Often we would sit around a table and communicate about identity and share our ideas. There's a different hotel we stayed in. And we are staying overnight here, and then we're ending up by this humongous tree. Can you see me? And then the whole group is going to be by the tree in a little bit. So this tree, I forgot the name of it, but these particular trees withstand the storms there. And we learned about how the native trees withstand the storms, and trees that were brought in from other countries do not. I have no idea how old this tree is, but there you can see how huge it is.